The following episode is brought to you by Poison City Brewing, proud makers of Durban Poison Cannabis Lager, the beer that invites you to live your poison. It's a brand new Sludge Underground episode, and today we have a very special guest joining us all the way from the UK. We've got Usher Lavelle. He's a DJ, and he's also part of Reprezent Radio. We're going to be learning a lot more about him. And bro, so just introduce yourself to the South African listeners, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much for having me, firstly. And I think you introduced it quite well. I've got my own show on Reprezent called Zone 68, which I've had for 4 years. September just gone now. And before that, I was basically just trying to be a music producer and still trying to do that, but I've tried to do so many other things around it to kind of hide the failures. Other than that, I'm kind of working at a booking agency now and basically just trying to cover myself in as many musical areas as possible. Which I'm sure we'll probably get into as the show goes on.
Yeah, definitely, bro. And it's very interesting that you mentioned, booking agency there. I don't think it's a profession that many would actually know about, and in terms of like the logistics and everything behind that. So just shed some light on that, bro. Like what does that entail? Like what do you have to do on a daily basis when it comes to, being part of a booking agency?
Yeah, I mean the bigger picture of the whole thing, because obviously I'm kind of just a small cog in this whole thing, but the bigger picture of it is basically just looking after a set list of clients that we either sign or that in the odd occasion come towards us to kind of get help. And we then have a trusted list of promoters that we work with, or venues or festivals, and we basically try to get the best possible shows, gigs and deals for our clients or artists. So it's one of those ones where I kind of knew that agencies existed in like the modelling world, mainly actors. Obviously, you always hear about actors having agents, and I didn't really think about it that much for music until I started DJing and realising that all these DJs getting mad shows and mad amount of money had an agent behind them. So that kind of just intrigued me more into like what the hell an agent does and why they're able to get people so much money, and not even just like in a money motivated way, but just more of just like the spectacle of, wow, you have an agent, so that must mean that this person's good, almost as a kind of stamp of authority. So I think day to day it's all basically just trying to find shows for clients, whether or not that's trying to map tours out in whether or not it's domestic tours or international tours, or trying to find festivals for a new growing artist, and we're trying to find like grassroots festivals that will apply to that artist. So I don't know if I've given any light on that at all, because it is still quite a wild industry to me, but yeah, that's my kind of overview of it so far.
And would you say, just looking at it from, producer's perspective and a DJ and whatnot, would you say being part of a booking agency is something that has helped you as well and has helped, enhance your career, whether it be as a producer or a DJ and whatnot? Is it sort of bleeding into the other stuff that you do?
Definitely. I think my main reason for doing it, because I was always one of those, and I still am, to be fair, like one of those people that's like, I hate corporate, hate industry, don't want to really be stuck at a computer all day. I kind of want to just do all the creative stuff. But I also am another person that wants to know how everything works. So joining an agency like this, and because it's quite a big one that's been around for a while, it allows me to kind of understand how the business works. And if I know how the business works, my mind can be more at ease to create and do all the fun stuff, because I'm not worrying or anxious about if I'm being like messed up or cheated in some way.
And in terms of the whole procedure as well, bro, like if you're obviously, representing clients and trying to book the best shows for them and whatnot, how does that whole procedure works? I mean, I feel like this is something that, a lot of artists who also tune in, could learn a lot from as well, in terms of, what this entails and whatnot. So is it a matter of like, do you guys go out and look for artists to represent, or do artists have to come to you guys and you help them out? Give us some details, bro.
I think, yeah, it completely depends on the size of the agency. If it's like a small agency, maybe like a domestic agency that only deals with clients and artists in that country, then it's probably more likely that they will be open to people going towards them and maybe submitting music to them for consideration. For us, I think because of the size, it's a lot more. We get loads of submissions for music, like, but it's more on a personal basis. So if you know someone and you know they're an agent or you know they're an assistant to an agent, then it's good to have a relationship, because the whole agency, and also, as you know, the industry is just a relationship business in general. So if you know someone works somewhere or know someone that works somewhere, then if you have your music being played around them, then, and it's good, it's most likely that's going to get talked about around the office or around in the circles that it needs to be talked about, and to the point where it comes to being considered to be being signed for something. So for us, we have loads of meetings, just like listening to music or have conversations about new artists here and there. Some of it will be people's friends, some of it will be things from just going on a SoundCloud deep dive or Bandcamp deep dive, and just finding out if anyone else knows about it. So it's, I think for anyone like listening that's an artist, I think the main thing is always going to be just creating good music, and then looking out for opportunities of people that you know that might know someone, or even just having a look online and looking at different people that work in different places. And it might not necessarily be the most higher up person that you go to first. It might be the small person that's there, because they're trying to make a name for themselves in that company. And if they bring forth someone that's a sick artist, they're gonna, it's in everyone's mutual favor to kind of perpetuate that music in a way.
Yeah, and just also focusing, a bit on your work on Reprezent. We actually had an interview with Kaylee Golding not too long ago, actually, and she was just saying, as a person who has also been in radio and whatnot, and is juggling a whole lot of projects. I'm just looking at the things that you do, being a DJ, and obviously running Zone 68, and obviously now the booking agency and whatnot, bro. I mean, how do you manage to sort of run all these things concurrently and not have maybe one of them lacking a bit and whatnot? How do you get that perfect balance?
I haven't got the perfect balance at all. I think that's something I'm still trying to figure out myself. But I think one thing that's made it possible for me to be in this position now is that I kind of did them step by step. So it started off me wanting to be a producer, making music all the time. My parents gave me a year after uni to just kind of make music and see if I wanted to just try and go the route of being an engineer, being a producer in the studio. And I tried it, but it was just, I didn't like the idea of having to make music to kind of pay my way, especially that early on. So I kind of ended up going the route of trying to find more of a stable income. And then eventually found Reprezent Radio, where I could volunteer, learn the ropes there. And then from that, then was also a resident DJ around London, and had a residency in Brixton, from which I then had other sets around London. And then after that, I eventually was like, actually, I need more money and a more relevant job than the current admin job I had at the time. So basically decided to go into this booking agency job, or at least apply for it, and luckily was able to get. So I think basically what I'm trying to say is that it was all staggered across the years. I kind of gained these different skills and was able to kind of think at the time, okay, is this going to fit? Am I going to be able to handle doing all these things? And I think I've always gone back to my kind of retail days of having 2 hours sleep because I was out the night before, and then able to walk on my feet for 10 hours, having to smile and deliver the highest customer service to people. I always think back to those times and think, if I was able to do that, then, and if I'm not under that kind of stress right now, then I can fit all these other things in. So that's kind of just how I've been coping with it. And then in terms of now, Google calendars, reminders, writing down as many ideas and just things as possible is how I'm trying to keep track of everything at the moment. But I am kind of getting to that point where I'm I think I need help from like another, from someone else basically, and maybe mental help as well. But yeah.
Yo, that's actually an interesting point that you dropped there, right in the end about the whole mental health thing, bro. You know, how, like, would you say that, you know, having all this responsibility and whatnot has an effect on your mental health? Like, if so, how would you say it's affecting it? I mean, you do mention that it's getting to a point where you might need help, you know, from someone else and whatnot, bro. So you know, tell us a bit more about that on the mental health side of things, on your perspective.
Yeah, I think I'm one of those people that I'm always giving out so much advice to my friends and family and everyone else that's around me. I'm always kind of giving them ideas and ways that will help them, and I try to kind of, with that, help myself. If I ever catch myself reflecting anything that I've once given advice for, then I try to just take my own advice in those situations. And people, luckily I have a good support network where people always check in with me and ask if I need help or if I'm alright and stuff. And usually, 9 times out of 10 the answer is yes, because I think I do have quite an optimistic and kind of like driven tunnel vision type mentality of just like, okay, it's tough, but I'll get through it. But yeah, as I say, like needing help now, it's I like to kind of self-diagnose and think, if I keep going like this, that eventually more dominoes and the Jenga blocks will fall to the point where I probably feel like I've given myself a setback more than an advancement. So I think for me, I'm always just checking in with myself and trying to make sure that I've kind of got everything running to a certain degree that isn't affecting my daily functioning, if that makes sense. I always think if I can kind of do the normal things I do in a day and it's not being overshadowed, or I'm not completing it adequately, then that's when I know that there's something wrong. But if I'm kind of still operating fine and the wheels are still turning, then I'm kind of happy to just keep it moving.
That's a beautiful way of explaining it, bro. It makes a lot of sense. You know, I want you to take me back to I was on your Instagram, and basically I saw one of your posts there where it was basically like your first ever DJ set, and you're obviously supporting DJ Sticky and whatnot, bro. Walk me through that moment, bro. The very first time behind the decks, how did it feel for you? You know, was it something that you were sort of working towards? Did you sort of stumble upon it? You know, share some insight.
Just really fun. Like I think I was 18 or 17. Yeah, definitely 18 because I was allowed in the club. I was 18 at the time, and me and my friends always would just be hanging out at someone's house and just coming up with ideas or playing music at each other's houses. And it got to the point where we're like, I think the energy that we have, we were all just like, we have so much energy, we need to just actually like convert this into an event or club night of some kind. So we were super ambitious, and we kind of called all the clubs around us and was like, hey, we want to like put on a club night here. We think we'll like sell it out, blah, 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 all that stuff. And so a few of them kind of just instant decline, was like, no, sorry, we don't do that kind of stuff here or whatever. And then one lucky one, which is the one I managed to play my first set at, which is Bricks and Jam. I think we went there a few times as well when we would just be partying for the first few times in our life. So that was a kind of a good place to start. They gave us a call back and was like, yeah, come down for a meeting. You can meet the owner of the place and just discuss the ideas that we have. And it was basically, I think because we were 18, they saw how energetic and how many ideas we had about how we could run a club night, but weren't convinced because we had no track record. They weren't convinced we would sell something out. So they were like, look, we've got another guy who's just started promoting with us, and he needs some support for the second room. So would you like to do it? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So basically we took that as our first club night, because it was like, well, we're going to get all our friends to go. We're going to show them that we can actually just like throw a good party, even if it is going to be for this small amount of time. So we did that, got all our friends there, and yeah, even though I was supporting Sticky and he played a sick set, it really just felt like it was just our club night, because we were waiting for that moment. We've been calling people for so long, and we got to that point and just made it feel like our own night, really.
would you actually say that being a DJ, like what you guys were doing that particular night and running a show like Zone 68, would you say that's pretty much the same thing, or would you say it's two different things? Like, I relate this question to, say, for example, a radio presenter and a DJ. Like, would you say this is the same profession, or is it sort of like two different things?
I think they can be. I think they can be the same thing. Like, so many presenters that Represent have gone from just being presenters to being DJs and being known for both, and their kind of shows kind of fit very well with their personality and their personality as a DJ. I feel like for me, my biggest problem has just been because I like to do, like, Zone 68 in its essence is kind of just a wild thing. It kind of just does whatever it wants at the time, and with the idea of just kind of enriching the listener with new music, amazing blends, and just amazing. I just want it to just be like a weird sonic experience for the listener. So translating that to a club is very hard, because people want to dance, they want to have a good time, they don't necessarily want to kind of concentrate or have anything too cerebral. So it's been something that's been difficult. Say if I have, in 1 week I'm preparing for a show, and then on the weekend have a club night. Early on, when I first was doing the two things at once, I would often make the club night too like the Zone 68 show, and I'd realise that I'm not getting the same sort of audience reaction. So it kind of led me to realise that, well, I'm not really, I've got to separate myself mentally in those two ways of preparing music for them. And I was kind of happy to do it, because it just kind of meant I could even cover a wider range of music in that space of time. But going forwards, I would definitely want to kind of do a Zone 68 dedicated night, whether or not it's in a club or, say, like a gallery, because I probably think that's probably more suited for how a Zone 68 show runs. So yeah, I think I would definitely want to do like Zone 68 events eventually, but from what I've previously done, it's been quite separate.
And I'd like for us to talk a bit more actually about Zone 68 and whatnot. What role is Zone 68 playing in terms of uplifting the music of maybe the upcoming artist in the UK, or even the prominent artists, bro? Like, let us in on that.
Yeah, it's a good question, because like the main reason I started the show was for those exact reasons, which was to just find artists and people that need a light shone on them. And as that's developed, I've kind of wanted to be the champion of the underground artist that then goes on to blow and do so many more better radio shows than my own. But I want them to always be known to have started on Zone 68. So I've always had this like imagination of 10 years, 15 years down the line, you'd have like all these amazing artists, and you look back to see what first show they did, and it would be Zone 68. Like, that's how I kind of want this show at this moment in time to be. And yeah, I've had a couple, or maybe a few now that I can name, that's kind of gone on to do that, and gone doing tours around Canada and the UK, and also just working with amazing artists that I've never imagined them to have done at the time. So basically, I just want this to be a breeding ground for amazing artists, and they want to come here as their first radio interview, because they know that it's going to kind of give them that stamp of, oh, I've done this show, maybe someone else will pick me up later, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that, dude, I actually resonate with that, because we are trying to run something similar as well, like on Sludge, and I really feel like it's really important to nurture upcoming talent, because they're pretty much the future. So what you guys are doing on Zone 68 is actually, it's really dope, dude. And with your experience on Zone 68 and interviews and whatnot, what goes into the preparation? Like, if you're going to be talking to ex-artist, how do you sort of prepare for those interviews? Do you prepare at all? What's your approach?
Yeah, so as I say, when I started at Reprezent and I was working on other people's shows, I would basically research the artists in and out, Twitter, Instagram, listen to their music, and then kind of deliver an A4 piece of paper with questions and little insights on it to the presenter at the time. And I kind of took that into my show in the early days because it's always just good to be prepared. But it ended up hindering me more because I'd always be like resorting back to it, and it would kind of interrupt conversation. And I love now how it's just so much more of a natural conversation, kind of like what we're having here, because I think it just makes the artist open up so much more. So what I tend to do now is I will listen to the music first and foremost, see if there's anything I want to ask them about the music that I've listened to. I'd go through their Twitter to see if there's anything that's on their mind, and then go through their Instagram to kind of catch a feel for like what they're up to at the moment and what kind of things they've been proud of. I'd kind of just get a mental picture of the person I'm talking to and have a kind of set list of questions or a general idea of what I want to kind of find out about the person and kind of just start talking, really. That's kind of been my thing for the last 2 years.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, with the artists that you've spoken to on the show, you know, just give me, say, your best. I wasn't gonna say top 3, but just give me your best sort of interview, an artist that you felt, you know, when you spoke to that artist, it was like, wow, you know, you learned, you really enjoyed that interview. And what is it about that artist, and what is it about that actual interview that made it, you know, your most enjoyable?
It's obviously very difficult to say, and I think the only reason why I can say this one is because of how impromptu and last minute it was, but yet how interesting the conversation was. So, JPEG Mafia, I interviewed him, I think, I want to say 2018, summer 2018, because he was over here for the festivals. And yeah, he had literally I think he might have just come over for a week, and the head producer at Reprezent was just like, oh, hey, do you want to interview JPEG Mafia? And at the time I had no idea who he was, but I listened to his music and I was like, yeah, why not? Like, the production's sick. So then, yeah, he just came through in like a dungaree, half off, and like had a vape with various substances in it, and was just in the interview, he was just like, I think it was good that I didn't know who he was and had like this massive cult following before, because I was literally just asking him questions as I would any other artist, and like found out about how he had like he joined the army because he was like low on money, and like that was like the last thing he had to resort to, was basically joining the army, the US Army, and then being sent, I can't remember the word is, but when you're like sent on like a sort of an assignment, he was sent to Japan to work on the force there, and basically that's where he kind of just met a crew where he then which he then developed his musical sound. They would basically just rap, make beats, and also how he had another experience in his life which shaped his nature. I think it was I think they call it something different in New York and America, but it's basically like a hostel where when he was homeless, that's where he went and that's where he stayed. And again, I think that's where a lot of like his experiences were shaped. And then also just finding out weird little things, like on one of his tracks, he just got a pen and he thought something was missing in a track, so he just started tapping it against the mic, and that turned out to be one of the like sickest sounds and the thing that people loved the most about that track. So it was just one of those conversations where I'm kind of asking the questions, but because of the open state that the artist and the person I'm talking to is in, it just feels like it's just an instant pool of weird knowledge, which was amazing.
Yeah, dude, that sounds brilliant, bro. I actually, you know, just you explaining that, bro, makes me want to just go and listen to that. And I think anyone else who's actually listening to this, bro, that was really well explained. And, you know, you dropped a keyword there, Japan. And I believe you've also had, you know, a stint over in Japan. You know, how did that go for you? How was the whole experience? How was it sort of diving into, you know, a new culture?
As anyone that I'm sure as Dean would say, it's crazy. Crazy for every reason that you can imagine. And before I speak about it, I want to speak about something that made me think about this the other day, where I was speaking to the Somali girls, and I'm not too familiar with the Somali migration to this country, and I wasn't sure. I just knew that there was a big Somali community here, but had no idea as to like how it came about. So I just asked them. I was just like, "Oh, like when did the Somali people like migrate over here?" And they were like, "Oh, in the 90s, there was like a massive war that happened over there, and that's when they started coming over here as refugees." And they were like, "Yeah, like imagine like your parents coming over here, having to like write a CV in a different language and having to basically function the daily life that of just what anyone else would do, but with no kind of communicational skills and no understanding of the culture around you." And like I was listening to that, and I was like, "Wow, that's literally what it felt like for those 8 months when I was in Japan." Obviously, I'm not having to set up a whole life over there, but I had a feeling of like having to do my visa, having to do all my like work documents because I was teaching English out there. I had to kind of just navigate around the airport, around the city, mostly without any help for most of the time. Obviously, I had a phone, which is makes things a lot easier. But yeah, I used to just say it feels like you're a toddler where you just can't communicate. You can't really say exactly what you want to do, and you kind of might be misconstrued in different ways. But at the same time, you're kind of marveled at the whole world around you because it's so new and familiar. So I feel like those kind of two anecdotes or metaphors are like the ways that I can best explain it in a holistic, general way. But on the smaller details, it was just amazing. It was one of those things where so much is being input into your brain that you wish you could just like take a snapshot every single time because so many amazing things are happening. And it's like visually, there's so much going on. There's so many like billboards, so much color. And then everything seems to be like the opposite to how it is here in England. Like if you're going up escalators, people wait on the left side instead of the right, or if things just seemed reversed like that. It was just kind of strange. And then music was one of those ones where when I was there and I'm in the shops and I'm in all the public places, it's kind of just your normal J-pop, which is so big, obviously, in a massive industry. But it was only when I kind of set up shop in my city, which is in the south, in Kyushu, and that only when I started kind of exploring around there one night after work, I kind of just looked at what the big house techno clubs were. And I just hit up one of the guys via email and I was like, like, I'm from London, I have a radio show and just wanted to like meet you and maybe talk about the possibilities of playing here one day if you would like. Like, it was in a much nicer way than that, but I kind of just sent that email, cold email over, and he got back and was like, yeah, just come over on this Tuesday and we can just like chat and meet. And that's exactly what happened. And he asked me to kind of play on a Tuesday. This was basically, in Japan they have spaces that kind of have double functions. Like in the day time, the space is like a cafe / restaurant, and in the night time, on certain days, it will turn into the best techno club in the city. And I say the best because it's got a custom-made 5-speaker surround sound system that was pioneered over here by David Mancuso. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he basically pioneered these things called the loft parties, which were actually originated in New York and then brought over here via Colleen Murphy. And they were basically just a series of parties where in New York, all the celebrities that you could imagine would go to them. It would be kind of dim lights, but at the same time, food would be being served in a corner somewhere. There would be like nice decorations. And then these 5-speaker surround sound systems, which were custom made and designed for beautiful sound, but in a club setting. So whenever people ask me about how it was playing there, it was basically like DJing inside a studio. And that was just amazing. Met so many amazing people via this club for the short time that I was there, and it kind of felt like a step back into how people describe clubs over here and around the world in maybe like the 80s, the 90s, where it kind of was just raw, fun, energy, nothing too nefarious and bad. It's just people literally going out to have a good time. And yeah, that's my kind of experience, kind of in a nutshell, with a bit of tangents added onto it. But yeah.
And dude, it's very interesting, dude. Like, you literally just took us to Japan. How was the crowd there, like in Japan, compared to the usual crowd that you probably get out in the UK?
So free. Like, it's funny because outside of the club, just Japanese people are relatively quite reserved, and everyone kind of keeps to themselves. Everyone's kind of just got, I can't remember what the words are now, but everyone's kind of got a face to save. They kind of got to keep a high level of face. I say face, it's like they don't want to give away too much. It's just the way that the Japanese culture is. So then when you go into a club and you're expecting maybe the same thing, people to just be standing around or just sitting down and not doing much, it's complete opposite. The lights are low, and there's like people sweating on the dance floor because they're just like going so hard. So that for me was one. I think I'm always going to talk about that experience because it's where it feels like just getting a real dose of Japan and not kind of just what's been given out on the surface. And compared to here, I would say obviously you get people sweating and going crazy on the dance floor here, but I feel like because there's so many places to dance, or at least there were, you're kind of spoilt for choice, and so many different types of people go out to club, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but they go out for different reasons, and that might mean that you get less of an atmosphere of people just out to dance and go crazy. So I liked Desiderata, which was the name of the club in Fukuoka, Japan, because people were just out to go wild. And that's not even just over there actually as well. We went to Tokyo for a bit, and we went to like a vinyl disco set over there, and again, people were that was more in a bar type setting, and people were still going crazy.
This is so incredible, dude. Like, you honestly, I think the way that you explain things, dude, is like, you just paint such a vivid picture, and it just, dude, I'm super turned on heading out to Japan at this point, man. It seems very lit. Yeah, dude. I think just to sort of transition us into the next segment, give me your favorite JPEG Mafia song, and we can transition with that there.
JPEG Mafia. Does this ski mask make me look fat? That's the name of the track.
I see, bro. We're gonna play that song there. Obviously, in the transition as well, I'd like for you to just give us all your handles for anyone who wants to get in touch with you, your Instagram and wherever. If people want to send submissions to Zone 68, let them know, bro.
Cool. So for myself, where you'll be able to find more of like my music and anything that myself is doing, it's at Usher Lavelle. USHERLAVELLE. And for Zone 68, the amazing spaceship that will take you on any sonical journey that you want, that is at Zone 68 Radio across all socials for me and Zone 68. You'll be able to find us there. And if you want to submit, then go to Zone 68 Radio SoundCloud, have a listen to the shows, see if your music would fit, and then the email is right there for you.
Sweet, bro. That is awesome, man. Is this also like available? Like, can people from around the world submit their stuff? Like, if I'm in South Africa, want to submit something to you guys, can I do that?
Yeah, of course. Like, there is a focus on UK sounds, but like the show doesn't focus on purely UK sounds. It focuses. I'll always like go on a hunt for music from around the world because I want to like bring a bigger picture to the show. So yeah, of course.
Sweet, man. So guys, please do enjoy. It's a track by JPEG Mafia. We're gonna come back just now.
Hey, look, all the pain and suffering was temporary. Nowadays I swear that day was never ready.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into our chat with Usher Lavelle. We hope you guys enjoyed it, and that if you are an artist, you do submit all your stuff to Zone 68 Radio as well as other UK platforms. If you want to continue listening to the conversation, do become a patron. We've left all the links, or rather all the Patreon links, in the show notes. So if you do want to become a patron, this is your chance to do so. We'll be getting super personal, and he will also be sharing the criteria they use when it comes to music that is to be submitted on UK platforms. Until next time, it is bye for now.
Like I was surfing the tropics.
No debit, I want credit. These dudes acting straight jackers. Never learn to be a rapper. Kill masters, bringing math to disasters. Toe tagging, ice white like Casper. Flow tragic. I should pick another tactic. I'm so ratchet. All these pussy niggas passing. Too graphic. More blunt ashes. Nigga, fuck your fat.